Good morning all of you who have joined in the online, and those of you who are attending the interview this year. If you have not still sent your DAF, several of you have sent. Some of you who did not send, kindly send them so that during the session also I can consider your profile. At the same time, see, the way in which we are going to have a session today is, first I am going to give general orientation towards, if you are a student of anthropology, how exactly you are going to take up questions, how you are going to answer questions in the interview. That is one. So that is the first thing that we are trying to do. Soon after that general orientation that I give, I mean, it is not a general thing, of course, I am going to go to the specifics also. Once I do that, I will be giving time for one-on-one sessions with you, because some of you, I mean, you are coming from different states, so I think I need to give special emphasis to each one of your profiles. So that is how things are. Let me begin with that. By the way, if at all you were not there, if at all you were not there in the last DAF session, I should congratulate you now, because we did not meet in that session. Basically, I am looking at your preparation from 3 points of view for your interview. One is, what are the burning issues that have something to do with anthropology. Second thing is, what the questions you can expect from your own profile. And third thing is, what are the basic concepts related, content related questions that you can expect in the exam, in the personal interview. See, because you have already finished your written exam, no knowledge testing is actually something. So I was saying that because you have already done with your main examination, now that the knowledge testing has already happened, we don't expect you to give that kind of a factual answers or exhibiting your factual knowledge kind of things. What we expect from a student in the interview is how exactly you are applying the conceptual knowledge to the situations, to the questions. So basically, applied anthropology we are trying to see here. Now, there are so many things that have to be spoken about. We will go one step at a time. So by now, by the time DAF is submitted, students slowly come on to the ground, because there are different kinds of profiles that I am seeing. Some of you are there who finished 4 attempts, 5 attempts, you are in the 5th or 6th attempt, first time going to the interview. And then a few of you are there who are there in the very first attempt. So whatever could be the situation, if at all you had been waiting for quite a long time, suddenly you see that you start to float the moment the result comes. And then all the while I think you are busy preparing DAF 2 submission is over. That's the reason why today I have scheduled the session. Now the problem, as some of you had spoken to me, was where to begin from, because several of you did not expect the result to come, so you did not start any preparation for the interview. So suddenly where I should be, because I was preparing all the while for prelim and now I have to switch over kind of a thing. So other things are also there. I want to study for pre, and this also, what kind of suggestions you give, these are all the other things that we should be taking up. Now, if at all you are coming from the optional of anthropology and where to begin with, that's where I would want to start. Meanwhile, we will be finishing those things. Now, where to begin is, most of you who had been studying with me, or you are studying by yourself or through some other means and then trying to write your tests with me, etc. The question that I should try to put now is, whether you had done any true textbooks or original books of anthropology were studied by you or not. That's the first thing. See, at the time of a main examination, it must have been told to you that you stick to the concepts, you apply the concepts, and then you try to understand the situation. See, these are the factual information, this is the analysis that you should have, this is how you have to write the answer, this is the kind of thing was given to you. When it comes to the interview, I want you to go for some kind of original book reading. When I say original book reading, it can be of different kinds. See, as most of you know that we do not have all the content of the subject in one single book or a couple of books. So you can actually take up two kinds of books. One are the classics. When I say classics, the ones written by very high heads, but then not too very old books. Say, I can recommend some of the classics written by people like Geertz. They are contemporary, at the same time they came, after so much of discussion in the subject had happened. They had seen, Geertz had seen the 19th, 20th century developments, etc. So it is much more contemporary. So when I say classics, so you can pick up from whatever book that you wanted to read for a long time. When you were studying, you must have come across so many classics, books written by Boas kind of things, something that you are really fascinated. So when I am saying this, I am not expecting you that the whole book has to be completed, it is not like that. Maybe perhaps you start reading whenever you have time, half an hour every day, 1 hour kind of, so that you are gradually trying to understand. So basic thing here is, now you do not try to stress out yourself, being stress free is very important. At the same time, try to do those things which you have not done before, especially when it comes to the subject, because in the written examination, he is not looking at which book you have studied, etc. But then when you are coming to the interview, it is quite possible that he might ask you which book you have read. This had happened many times with several students, which books you have read, from where you have actually got the information, which assistance you have taken kind of. So you have to have some kind of original books at your hand. So one may be the classics that you can. Second may be, if you belong to one specific region. This I am saying especially if you are coming from, say, regions of Northeast. There was one book I was looking into, that was the book, and PDFs are also available. You can actually look into that, Migration, Conflict, Displacement of Tribes in the Northeastern India, and that is the book. Very small book, I think that runs into about 80 or 90 pages, you can quickly finish. So if you are coming from specific region, say you are coming from Maharashtra, and left-wing affected regions, whatever kind of leftist anthropological literature that has come from that particular region, you can pick up a book. And when you are reading these books, don't worry about the language in which you are going to read. Because from your region, if you are reading a book, it is quite possible that it was written in a vernacular language. So don't worry even if it is not in English. And some of the books, especially if you are coming from the northeastern region, they are not available in the rest of the country mostly. They are available in the regional markets only. This is one. So you have to now do some kind of original book reading. Don't get a huge number of them. Try to take up any particular genre. Now you might again ask what genres I should take up now, because I am now trying to begin. So how to begin the preparation for the interview with anthropology? See, the reason why I have asked regular students, also the ones who are now studying anthropology for the first time, to join this particular talk is that it is something like you are preparing yourself right from now to see what is going to be asked in the interview. It is not that after the prelim I would start preparing SNA. Whatever kind of perspectives that you have to develop, they have to be developed now only. Right from now you should be developing, and if at all I am saying certain questions, I am giving certain questions to such kind of students, you will have a forethought. Okay, when I am writing my answer, maybe in the back of my mind, what kind of, if at all a question is asked in the interview, what kind of question, what kind of answer I should be able to give. Keeping that in view, one is the book list I was talking about, that is general kind of books. When I am saying general, do not look for general anthropology title, it is not like that. When I am saying some books that are generic, not the textbooks that are being recommended to you, but definitely certain ones that may be classics, certain ones that are written by people based on maybe their own field experience, etc. That is where I was suggesting people like Geeds you can read from the contemporary world, and books like these, books like from your respective regions. If some activist has written, it may be an activist book also, it need not necessarily be a true anthropologist book. Now when I am saying this, you might be asking which genre I should be taking. See, from your entire syllabus, when I am talking about burning issues and contemporary issues in the world, what comes close to our discussion is the tribal affairs, and hence you start to work on tribal affairs. This is one that you should be doing. So there are several verticals in which you will do. One is your own bio profile. Based on that, in your region, in your state, whatever tribes are existing, plus if you are a scheduled tribe, if yourself is a scheduled tribe, this is one vertical that you should be doing. Second is, when we talk about literature to study, certain, I am using the word grand books, meaning the ones that you have heard of, you wanted to read, you couldn't read, kind of classics. This could be one. Or the books related to any specific problems that you keep reading in the newspaper that have a link somewhere with anthropology. I will be elaborating each one of them. And third thing is any aspect related to concepts, their relevance, etc. I am right now talking about this, so let me finish about this, then I go to the rest of the ones. When I am talking about burning topics, among several contents that you have in the subject, tribe, their issues, Dalits and low caste, their issues, or regional conflicts, etc. When we are mentioning these, or maybe perhaps conflicts in the name of nationalism or communalism, see, when I am mentioning these, while you are preparing for the written part of the main examination, you must have set aside a few of them, like nationalism, communalism. They seem to be difficult to convince the examiner, and based on your access to the information, if at all you thought that, okay, I don't have much of information related to nationalism, etc., maybe you must have opted out of that particular topic and you did not. Now that when you are going to the interview, a question is going to be asked there. Yeah, we know pretty well that if at all you do not have an idea, you can very much say that, yes, I don't have an idea about this particular thing. But then what you have to understand is these are the burning issues we are talking about. And being an aspirant for civil services, who you are going to be in the important positions of the government, you cannot say that, see, a problem is brought in front of you and you are supposed to take a stand. In your district communal violence is happening, and how exactly you are going to handle communal violence. You cannot say that, no, I don't want to take a stand now. You cannot, no, go back. Now is the situation, you have to take on things on your, on the face of it, and you have to go head on with the problem. So it is here you will have to understand, in the subject of anthropology, whatever skills that you have learned, they come in handy to take a decision, to take a, are you okay? To take a stand. Whatever concepts that you have learnt in the subject, they come handy to take a decision, whether it is the situation of nationalism, communalism or regionalism, etc. So, here we will have to bring in, so I am not asking you to do a lot of research on these terminologies now, etc. Whatever you have learnt in the subject, from there you are trying to get an understanding of how exactly I will take a decision in the situation. And also remember, sir, when you are there in the interview board, be very cautious about what has been the government's stand on that particular issue. You might be differing in your stand, but if at all you are differing in your stand with the government, when you are answering in the board, you have to have a lot of homework done. This is very, very important. True that anthropologists have been activists. We also made a point in your classes that you can go an extra mile in criticizing the government's policies, etc. That is when you are trying to write. There also I made a caution that you should be using very respectful language. Don't try to shoot from your own mouth. You try to shoot from the barrel of somebody else. Put your gun on somebody's shoulder and fight. You try to not to show up yourself. That is what we were saying earlier. Now, when it comes to the interview, you are sitting in front of the board, and when they are asking questions such as, re-establishment, the concepts of nationalism, regionalism, etc., how far you can actually go against the government's opinion, that becomes a challenge. Okay, now these are some of them, but then you have the whole lot of other things here: tribe, caste, regionalism, etc. I do not want to open the entire discussion at a time. Let me go one step, take one step at a time. Now, in the burning topics, some of the genres I have written there. There is a combination of your bio profile and the topics that you are going to learn in the burning topics list. So, that is where you will have to check your bio profile whether you are a scheduled tribe or you are not a scheduled tribe. If you are a scheduled tribe, then you will have to know the entire profile of your tribe. So, all those demographic aspects. Now, see, we generally tell the student in the interview that you don't worry about the facts, even if you don't remember the numbers, pretty much fine. We are not trying to check your factual information in the interview. That is already done in the pre, in the main, it is already done. But see, when it comes to your own tribe, you cannot say, no, I don't know. People may differ on this, but then if your own profile, your own population, you are not in a position to get information, remember information about your own self, then that will send some kind of a wrong signal there. So, if you belong to a tribe, your whereabouts and what are the kind of ethnographic details that you are having, meaning what kind of economic subsistence you are into, which regions you have been staying, and what are the other major milestones of your tribe. You also have to know how far things have changed with you, culture change, what all things have changed in your own population, and what are the recent problems that your people have been facing. See, once you are getting into the administration, you should know your own people's problems. Then rest of the problems you can eventually understand and try to act on this. This is mandatory. So, when I am saying this, if you are a scheduled tribe yourself, and then secondly, if you are not a scheduled tribe, but then there are several other tribes in your state, say you belong to say Rajasthan, there are several students who come from Rajasthan in the profile list. So you have huge lot of tribes. There are tribes like Bhilala, Bhagia. There are several tribes that we see in the region that are actually the emergents or maybe sub-tribes of tribes like Bhils. Now, when I am talking about specific region, specific tribes of that region, even if you do not belong to scheduled tribe, because you have come from that particular region, and there are certain things that are happening in your state. Those of you who are from Rajasthan, maybe perhaps you are following something like a new tiger reserve that is being proposed by Government of India, Savai Madhopur tiger reserve they are proposing, because of which huge number of tribal communities are going to be displaced, and there is a big hue and cry going on there. This shall not be unnoticed by you. You have to take a note of these things, you have to get arguments on both the sides, which tribes are affected, how many villages or habitats of tribes are going to be removed from there, what is it that government is trying to talk about the rehabilitation, because you are somebody who come from that state. Now, something that I tell you very seriously here, this you have to definitely do, because this will definitely help. That is, you have to have a personal visit to your state, to the place where such kind of problems are occurring. You might have left your home region, home territory long time back, even if you are a tribe. You might not have gone back to your territory for quite a long time. Now is the time, just before the interview, you try to go, stay there for a couple of days, try to understand what is happening, and if at all any controversial project is there in your state, you have to personally go see what is happening so that you get the first hand information of your own people. This is mandatory. Meaning, you are not going to simply sit with the books, that we do not want. Books are not going to do the administration there, they are not going to answer. You are trying to prepare yourself mentally, because when you are studying anthropology, you have studied that seeing is believing. You have to see and then form an opinion. Don't go in for forming an opinion just like that. I know you cannot be there everywhere, but then at least in your own state, in your own region, where people are suffering, there are certain demands that are happening, you should be able to do this. So almost every state has got such kind of problems. Some of you have come from Maharashtra, and that is where we see one very long time dragging project that is going on, that is Sardar Sarovar project, and that has displaced several villages, and still the work is incomplete, etc. If at all you come from Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra kind of regions where Sardar Sarovar project is there, you physically go and check out what exactly is the state of affairs. Take that extra effort so that your interview would be much more beautiful. So you may go a step ahead in the interview and may also commit that you have seen this particular thing on the field. You are actually trying to send a positive signal to the board that, see, I am not talking something from my own theoretical experience, but I have seen these things happening. Either my people or the tribes in my state are suffering in this particular manner. Now, you might say that maybe perhaps I do not have many issues in my state. My government has been pretty good. I mean, I don't have any problems of tribes in my state. I would want to go elsewhere. Most welcome. You try at least see some such kind of problems. And something that is very significant in the anthro-based interviews is that you also have to look into whether your state comes into the red corridor. So, the left-wing extremist regions, do you have left-wing extremist regions in the state? And if at all there are left-wing extremist regions in your state, then you also have to form an opinion about what kind of work government was doing. Yeah, before that, before I forget, I have to tell you that very shortly you are going to have one dedicated session on northeastern populations, northeastern region of India, and the entire aspects of the problems that are faced by them, the kind of situation of the northeast. You are going to have a special session on that. We will be notifying the date and time to you. Do not miss that, especially people who are coming from the northeastern region, number one. Second thing is those students who are writing with anthropology. Third thing is any student who is going for the interview, you need to have the northeast understanding very clearly, and that is very significant here. Because we already have something in front of our eyes, like Jammu and Kashmir issue, how exactly government had approached. Government of India, if at all, would want to go in for much more stronger ways of handling the northeastern region, how exactly it is going to happen. Because the shift in the orientation we had seen in the last 10 years, we are not seeing the northeast as something that is to do with a problem of maybe national security. We are not looking on that front. We are looking at the northeast as something that is to be handled from the developmental aspect, from what is called trying to approach them from a close corner, trying to approach them from more brotherhood kind of a concept. That's where we are trying to establish networks of projects and all that stuff. When I am saying this, even in the northeast, there have been certain projects that have been controversial, leading to displacement, etc. So that becomes an issue. So that is where we are. We were talking about one, that is if you are a tribe yourself, if you are not a tribe, and then your state has been having certain tribal affairs, this is one. And also something to do with Dalit issues, because you see throughout the subject you generally study Dalits, scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in most of the cases. When questions are picked up, sir, in the board, three types of situations might emerge. One is that you might encounter an academician in social sciences, that may be sociology or anthropology, etc. If a proper academician is there, you might encounter certain type of questions, because he is somebody from sociology and anthropology background. So he might be coming up with one set of questions. This is one category. Second category is, now don't expect questions like, why did you take anthropology? You don't expect questions like that. Because they know pretty well that you are choosing any subject basically to get into the list. And see, those are the type of questions of last century, I mean last decade whatsoever, when such kind of questions students used to prepare and all. अभी तो questions अलग है, जैसा कि आपने MD medicine किया, MD general medicine किया, and then you are coming to civil services, then all that knowledge, all that expertise that you have gained there is going, largely to a disuse. Here, if at all based on the postings, you would use them definitely, but then you are not full time into that activity, you are shifting from there to here. Those kind of questions actually we should be preparing on. But then here, when we are talking about in the board, a true anthropology professor or academician is there, or somebody doing with social sciences, he might come up with certain core questions. He might come up with certain core questions, meaning any topic from your regular anthropology, he might pick up and ask you to answer certain things. That may be generally concept based questions he would come up with. So for this, what I recommend the student to do is, don't worry about what notes you have written, leave that all aside for now. Just pick up the syllabus paper casually. I mean, whenever you find some time, pick up the syllabus paper, especially start going from, start going from second paper onwards. First you do the second paper, then you come to the first, kind of. So go through the syllabus, pick up each word and try to recall what that particular word meant, how exactly that particular concept or that particular entity was known to you, and if at all verbally you have to answer, verbally you have to answer about anything. So if at all he is randomly asking, can you tell me the meaning of culture? You cannot now say that, ఇంకా మడిచి రాయడం మొదలెట్టడం అట్లా ఉండదు కదా. So according to so and so person it is this, but no, not this, no, not this. You don't have that much of a time there. You have actually to communicate to the board in a manner that is more meaningful, that can be understood by a general audience. So keeping all definitions apart, so you may perhaps say that, see, there can be several definitions for this, but in a general sense culture means this particular thing. I hope you get it. It is not mandatory that you quote so many thinkers and all that. So when you are picking up the syllabus document for a general understanding, you pick up each word and try to recall what each of those words meant. How exactly, if the board is asking about that particular term, you would try to answer in a couple of statements. This is for a refreshing kind of a thing in the optional. We are not expecting you to read the whole thing again. This is one. Second thing is, in the process, when you see that the whole lot of issues related to culture are coming, all this whatever you read in the subject, that is actually to help you draw certain conclusions, take certain stands in a problem situation. Meaning you should be able to answer questions like, if there is a case presented to you, there is a situation presented to you. Say for that matter, there is a situation related to displacement is there. There is a situation related to categorization of scheduled tribes is there. In your own state, scheduled tribe categorization might have happened, or scheduled caste categorization might have happened. They might give you a situation and they would ask you to justify or find the mechanisms to take up to solve the issue. I hope you are getting. And when you are being given this particular situation, you should be able to apply the kind of subject's knowledge there, subject's concepts there to come to a conclusion. Because whatever we must have started in the beginning when we were trying to study the subject, basically here our orientation either in the government or in the NGOs, or maybe perhaps as an academician, our orientation in the subject is to see how others are actually able to conceive things, why people are thinking that way, why exactly they are preferring certain things. You want to be in their shoes and understand things. So in every situation that is presented to you, you need not say that, see, I learnt this in anthropology. No, you need not say. A situation is presented to you. You try to present yourself in that particular condition and try to give a solution, and for that solution there has to be some act or some policy by the government. So all these policies, I mean, when I say the burning issues, displacement related ones, if the Forest Conservation Act is changed in the recent past, or maybe perhaps inheritance acts are changed, the kind of marriage related, divorce related acts are changed, or UCC discussion is coming, all these are contemporary issues. And when you are coming to a conclusion, always see to it that this cultural diversity thing is visibly incorporated in the answer that you are presenting to the board. Are you there? When we are talking about concepts and their relevance, second extension of that. Some concepts you must have forgotten, like the entire list of concepts on culture, or see, this has been a very interesting thing. There are certain set of questions which mandatorily a student of anthropology has to prepare when you are going to the board. That is a very tricky question. Is evolution an ongoing process? Several people have written about it, several scientists have written, people from social sciences have written, whether evolution is an ongoing process. I will also read out some of the other questions which you may perhaps prepare for. And when such a question has come, don't be surprised. It might be quite possible that he is looking at your at your subject that you have studied, and from there the question is coming. Now on evolution you must have studied so much, biological evolution, cultural evolution, so much you must have studied. Now everything I have to put in 2 to 3 minutes of time. And also the question is, do you believe that evolution is an ongoing process? Now answering in the first person happens. Whether you believe, you don't believe, you cannot tell the examiner, I am not going to tell about myself, that fellow said this fellow said this, you are not going to say that, because he is asking you whether you believe that evolution is an ongoing process or not. Okay. Now it depends on in which direction you want to take the interview. Generally what happens is, the interview is there in your hands, meaning what questions the board can ask. One is based on what you have written in your DAF. Second thing is, what are the kind of words, what are the kind of terms that you are uttering. From there they are actually getting the clue of in which direction they can take the discussion. So whichever word that you are using in every statement in the board, you have to be cautious about it, because from that statement that you made, the next question actually emerges. So that is where we make this exercise with the students, that whenever you are going through your own profile, be your own interviewer and try to shoot the questions to yourself. I generally insist that you have to type the answers. So looking at your profile, you write the first question. Say you come from Jhabua district, for example. On Jhabua district you are writing one particular question, and from that answer that you have given, there can be second question, from that answer third question, etc. You do this series for 5 questions in 5 steps. So because the first question was of the particular answer, the later questions have come in that particular fashion. Now go back, change the first answer, see how exactly the next series of questions are coming up. This exercise you have to do in all the segments of your profile, maybe from your job front, maybe in the region from where you are coming, or maybe perhaps in the optional front or in the hobbies front. Divide your profile into 5 major areas and try to do this exercise. Give yourself a question, type the answer. From that answer, the reason why I am asking you to type the answer is, when you are typing, when you are writing, you are more cautious than when you are talking. While you are talking, you may mince the words, you may miss out some of them, you might juggle with the things, and you think that you are communicating. But then what exactly you wanted to communicate, you may not be able to communicate to the board properly, and hence you have to write. When you are writing the answer, revisit the answer number of times, so that you are actually approaching right words. When I am saying this, in the interview board, when the same question comes, when in the interview board the question comes, you are actually very much clear of how exactly you are going to give the answer. Those words you have already tailor-made, but then it should not be like a made-up answer that yes, I memorized and came. It's not like that. You will have to come to a statement that can comprehensively give your opinion, because in the board, when you are talking to the elderly people there, they should be driven to have attention towards you, and that can happen if your opening statement is correct. Opening statement is impressive for them. So when I am saying this, when you are writing the answer, it was different. When you are sitting in front of the board and talking, in the first 1-2 statements itself, your entire summary of the question, your entire opinion about the question has to be given to the board in those 1 or 2 statements. If they are okay, they are sitting back and listening, then you try to explain. If at all they are cutting you short and going to the other question, then very much fine. So do not try to start with a whole lot of elaborate introductions and all that. Nobody has so much of time there. You have to approach the answer in a crisp way. Not that you are jumping to conclusions immediately, but then. So if evolution is an ongoing process or not, suppose you would want your discussion to go in the overall cultural pattern, you might talk about, see, cultural evolution is happening this way, biological evolution is happening this way. So sometimes what might happen is you may be well versed with one orientation, you may not be well versed with the other. Say you can answer better if it is a biological evolution. In cultural evolution you are not really having that command. So you may perhaps introduce by saying that, see, there are two different realms, and then whichever may be your fonded kind of a thing, on that you can elaborate. Maybe perhaps biological evolution you are stronger, you start talking about biological evolution. See, these are all the things that actually prove that biological evolution is an ongoing process. So let me give you some questions which you have to actually prepare on. Nationalism is a concept that you will have to look into. How can the knowledge of anthropology help answer questions on nationalism? And the second thing, in fact, the whole lot of tribal problems, if I am looking at, especially prepare on the issues of displacement, land alienation, globalization of culture. These are general kind of things. And prepare on what kind of developmental programs you suggest for tribal development. What kind of programs you suggest for tribal development. Prepare on specially about primitive tribal groups, PVTGs. Sometimes what might happen is, as we see the previous experience with the students, the boards may come up with something like a very simple, a student may consider that, is it the kind of interview question that I am being asked, kind of. So a student was asked, can you tell me some of the tribes and their geographical location, where they are located? Remember, every question that is being put to you in the board is an opportunity that is given to you. Questions might look very, very simple, and answers should also be so very graceful simultaneously. So if the question is of that kind, I remember this boy answering like, there are innumerable number of tribes, and he was numbering the scheduled tribes also, and saying that there are certain tribes in Western India, these are 2 or 3 tribes that he was talking, West India, these are the Eastern Indias, North India, these are the, so he is trying to actually mention from each region 3 or 4 names. The examiner, like, jitni der sunna hai, examiner sun lenge, and he knows now that you have come with the kind of relevant knowledge in that particular subject. So do not take even the simple question easily. Simple questions are the opportunity to you to showcase how exactly the knowledge that you are exhibiting to the people. It may be sheer facts, but then even when you are talking about numbers and facts, how exactly you are systematically presenting them, this is very important. Somebody is asking this question, Lakshmi. Fossils, primates, physical anthropology, to what extent we have to read and how? In most of the cases, we have to stick to application orientedness. When I am talking about application, see, there is some kind of a content in your subject that intersects with contemporary issues. There are certain topics in your syllabus that intersect with the contemporary issues. Say, for example, you have disease studies in the subject. Disease studies are there, epidemiological studies are there. And at any point of time, the world, the country would be facing some health related problem or the other. Some health related problem or the other will be there. And hence, disease related studies, health related infrastructure, health related preparedness is always relevant for your optional subject, and it is always relevant for the interview board. And all the more so if you are coming from a region that is known for a specific disease. So your region has malaria mostly, or dengue is there, or maybe perhaps tuberculosis is there, polio is there. AIDS is there. So, from your region whatever disease is there, on that you should be preparing. So, whatever epidemiological, anthropological discussions are there, you align them to your region. So, if you are coming from a particular region where fluorosis is there, you try to provide a culture specific answer to them. It is not that every tuberculosis is one and the same. In that region there are certain conditions, and hence that kind of a tuberculosis is existing. You try to do the in-depth study of the problem of your own region. This is one. I am trying to give this example for epidemiology. All the more so if you are a medical doctor, then you need to go to the required depth, combining your knowledge of culture, combining it with the medical knowledge, you should be able to answer. And then don't really worry about the whole lot of knowledge of fossils and all, not required. You may think that some new fossils were found in the recent past. Should I go and study about them, know more about them? Don't worry about it. If at all they ask about anything that is from the news, if at all you had come across that particular name, you may say that yes, I have come across that particular name. Probably it is, I have no great idea, but maybe this is the fossil that was found in this region, but I do not have further knowledge about it. That is where you try to leave it there. They wouldn't really mind about it. If at all you remember, you happen to have read something, you can give a little more detail and kind of, because massive kind of achievements and discoveries, they would come in a big way in the newspapers and journals, etc. More details are available there, and hence you will be in a position to talk better, otherwise you do not worry. But then when you are going to the interview, questions of these kinds would be of a thinking pattern, thinking type. So you will have to look at that. Do you think that humans are superior to the others, all other primates? Do you think that we are the ones that are smarter than the others? Do you think there are certain skills that we are lacking in? When we are talking about this, from human point of view, what are the strengths that you have? What are the weaknesses that you have? These you will have to talk about. So, the relevant information we might have discussed in the class, that might come to you. If at all you remember the thinkers or the researchers, it is well and good. If you do not remember, do not worry about it. They may ask you, do you remember who said like this? If you remember, you tell, otherwise, no. Do not get really upset about it. That is the reason why I am telling, whenever there is a time you flip through your syllabus book. Sometimes what happens is, one topic when you look at, you might remember the meaning of it, the context of it, you might not remember the people who were associated with it. So, quickly go to your note and see, okay, this was the person who did this kind of work, kind of. So, that is where evolution wala ek ho gaya. There are questions in the contemporary times. They may pick up conflicts like Palestine-Israel conflict. If at all you are not giving enough of hobbies, enough of things that you are not really properly placing your personal profile, and these kind of questions might come. How exactly you can use the cultural knowledge to solve solutions, to identify the cause behind such and such problem. This should actually be done. Your core concepts such as cultural relativism, or maybe perhaps your core methodology of fieldwork studies, these have to be incorporated in your answers. So, always project yourself as somebody who bases the knowledge on the fieldwork, on the first-hand information and research orientedness, rather than somebody who is trying to give information from somebody's writings, etc. Because that is where, as an administrator also, you are going to be very successful. Those administrators who are always on the field trying to understand the field level situation. So, it might so happen, people keep asking me as well that where exactly I can use anthropology in administration, etc. This is where the kind of research orientedness, the kind of contact that you can establish with the people, the kind of empathy that you can show towards them, and in understanding their problems, how exactly you are trying to put yourself on their front. This comes as a bonus from the optional subject. It is not every time 1 plus 1 is 2, sometimes 1 plus 1 is 11 also. That is where the subject actually helps. Somebody was asking, should I have to read the theories, etc. When you are doing the revision of, or when you are glancing through your syllabus, you also have various theories in various fronts, maybe in Indian society, maybe in anthropological theory, etc. So many theoretical aspects are coming up. You try to revise, you try to think about them and try to draw conclusions to yourself, so that suddenly if somebody is asking, because there were times, who was your favorite anthropological thinker? Now you should not sit there and think endlessly. You don't have so much time. Maybe perhaps you pause for a minute, though you have prepared, you pause for a minute because you have to think, no? You pause for a minute and then perhaps you say that, see, this is what is the school, this is what is the thinker that I really like, because he visited my place, no? He was there in my village, did research in my village, or his theory is so strong. These are the attributes that I am learning from him. They are still applicable in today's times, etc. So this is one. And also form opinions on things like about casteism in India. Casteism in India. So if at all caste-based violence is there, caste-based social issues are there in your region, how exactly you are going to approach them. See, such kind of situational questions you might be answering in your ethics paper also. But here you are not trying to bring about somebody's approach, utilitarian approach, or somebody's approach you are not bringing. How exactly you are going to approach that particular problem. If casteism is there, or child marriages are there, or the kind of any social evils based on caste are existing, how exactly you are going to handle them? How are you going to motivate the people to do their bit? That is where you are supposed to draw your own 1, 2, 3, 4s, so that you would want that kind of a profile to be executed. So maybe perhaps bringing them together in the kind of social activities, in the rituals you may be trying to bring them together. Rituals may look to be very insignificant things in the contemporary world, but then suppose any village rituals are there, any important religious rituals are there, try to see to it that you are bringing people together. Or nationally important occasions are there, you try to bring them together, make them talk, make them discuss, and how exactly this is going to be incorporated right from the schools, because there are situations where the schools in your district might be having high level of casteism. Children are divided on the lines of caste. The upper caste children are not mingling with the lower caste. Upper caste children are not listening to the lower caste teacher. How exactly you are going to handle that kind of a situation? So be prepared for these kinds of questions. Yeah, census is one area which you will have to, that is socio-economic census. Socio-economic and caste census, what is the anthropological view? Definitely, whenever they are actually bringing in caste-based census, they are coming up with their own reasons, because in pre-independent times when the census was there, they had reasons. They wanted social profiling of Indian population, and hence they did. And then at the time of independence, we stopped it, saying that this makes the society much more partisan. We continued with it, we discontinued with it for some time, and right now the kind of caste census that we are having, it is the result of the demand that we would want to know to what extent each of these segments has actually developed. So to rationalize, to provide a reasonable help for all the segments of the population, we need to have an understanding of how exactly caste-based census can give us the information. So what is the level of poverty, what is the level of employment generation among them, and whatever human resource kind of developmental activities are there, and every other thing which can be formed part of the caste-based census, that can definitely give an idea to the administrator. So there is one question that is being asked here. For general social issues or current affairs based questions, they ask us, should we answer with an anthropological way as we study most of the GS issues and current affairs in the GS? Definitely, see, that's what I was telling. When you are studying optional subject, whichever optional subject for that matter, that gives you a way of handling things. That gives you a unique way of handling things when compared to the other subjects that you might be studying or other general stream of things. So, the kind of answer that you might be giving might be refreshing to the board, and hence the idea here is anthropology with its core strengths of cultural relativism and other principles in place that can give an altogether a new kind of an answer to the question that is conventionally having certain answers. So, that is where from this bifurcation of caste comes into picture. I mean, each scheduled castes being categorized or tribes being categorized, these come from such kind of an understanding only. Not all tribes are one and the same. You cannot have a same kind of an omnibus solution to all of them. A same plan cannot work. You have to know the differences between them. This orientation comes from the study of core study of tribals only. So you need not say that, see, I studied anthropology, so I know a different answer. It's not like that. When you are trying to present an answer, you try to incorporate, you feel free to use the terminologies also. If at all you think that the answers, the next questions have to go into such kind of topics. So you want them to ask about maybe concepts such as culture contact or globalization, or maybe perhaps what is the role the NGOs are playing, etc. You want the board to ask more questions on those topics. You try to use certain topics, certain terminologies and try to explain. So you need not be telling that I am using an anthropological approach. If your approach is unconventional, but still it works on the field, you may perhaps, I was reading one article in the Anthropology journal yesterday. It read as, the young adults, a large number of young adults dying of cardiac arrest. Why is it that a huge number of young adults in contemporary urban society dying of cardiac arrest? That was a write-up on epidemiological anthropology. So you are trying to examine from cultural perspective, how is it that young people are succumbing to such kind of premature deaths because of this. So that is where you talk about culture of living and things like that. There is one more question that I was coming across in the articles. There is something like, how do you look at inbreeding versus interbreeding? The reason why I ask you to go through the syllabus once, and so if time permits, so let me revise whatever checklist that I am giving so far. The first thing is that you need to go through the syllabus document, try to recall at least a statement or two about the entire syllabus. This is number one. Second thing is, from your own region, if at all you are a scheduled tribe, and if you are not a scheduled tribe, from your region, whatever tribal issues are there, you will have to read about them, form an opinion about them. It is not simply forming an opinion simply by reading. You have to visit the site and you will have to talk to the people, identify what the issues are, spend a couple of days and come back with the first hand experience. This is the second thing. This will help in many ways. And third aspect is, I am coming to that, Rohit. Third aspect is, so he is asking, is there a need to study, read any special anthropology magazine or journal? So the third thing is, you visit the library once. For general reading, this is what I was telling, pick up any general reading of anthropology book, any classic or anything from the contemporary times. You try to flip through for an overall feel good factor basically. In that process, in the journals, you may perhaps the last quarters journals, you may look into Man in India is there, all conventional current anthropology journal, etc. You may visit the library, just flip through, if anything interesting is there, just put it in the database, so that so you are at a time when you should not go back and do the entire stuff, and you cannot repeat the same thing that you have done for the main written exam. But then you have to do your optional subject, not as a core subject of the option, etc., but then you have to see where you can apply these. For the application purposes, parallelly you should also be seeing what are the contemporary burning issues where anthropological knowledge can be used. These are the three things that I said so far. Yeah. And then there are other things. There are certain probing questions. Board may come up with certain probing questions. Board may come up with certain probing questions. These are the questions having dilemmas. Meaning what as an administrator you should be doing, what as somebody who has faced an issue, or as somebody who is facing the issue. There are two different things, two different solutions, or two different stands that you are taking. When I am saying this, because we are studying the subject of anthropology, we can pretty much understand it, apply it to all the contexts that we study. The entire list of tribal and caste problems, these are the ones where we have a problem, people are coming with different kinds of solutions, and in the government there is a mechanism, there is a kind of solution that is offered. But then whether your heart goes by that. So, I mean, these displacement related issues for that matter, if you belong to that particular community, you may not be ready to leave, or you have seen them suffering, you may not be ready to agree with the government. And now the government is actually trying to make you the officer in charge there, to look into the matter, see to it that people are shifted from there, and you execute government's programs or initiatives there. So if you are in a dilemma, how exactly you are trying to solve the dilemma? So it is in that context there is something else coming up. That is what is called a legal mechanism, what is something legally right and what is morally correct. You are getting my point. So there is a dilemma between morality and legality. Not everything that is legal need to be moral, and whatever is there in the moral laws need not come in the legal mechanism. So it is actually the dilemma that you are going to face. What is the morality and what is the legality? And that is where you will have to tell the board, you will have to communicate to them that as long as you are an administrator, it is your responsibility to execute the laws. Executing the laws is your duty. And as a part of executing the law, if there are some collateral damages that are being made, if it is there in your capacity to make any corrections, any help to them, you try to see to it that in the through right process of law, you try to help them out. You are getting my point? Because you are made in charge of that project. Now you cannot say that no, I don't do it. It's not like that. It is your responsibility to execute, and hence you will have to commit to the board that your responsibility is to be the administrator to execute the law in the required manner. But at the same time, because there are certain moral issues that are involved, you have to see to it that to the extent possible through the proper procedures, you may be in a position to help them out. Maybe perhaps you discuss with the other departments, other mechanisms, etc. See to it that some bit of justice is rendered to them. That is where on both the sides you are trying to do the balance. So that is where your skill of handling the issues comes into picture. This is only one example I am trying to say. So when you start reading the newspapers and thinking on those lines and seeing your own people, seeing the different kind of situations that are coming, somebody might come up saying this, what is the solution, what is the kind of intervention that you recommend in Israel-Palestine issue, can you give the anthropological perspective? In today's times, if you look into the open source material that is there from various universities, there is so much that is written on Israel. Right now we have a special discipline coming up called Anthropology of Israel. So I mean, we have gone to that extent now. So much of literature has come. And when you're talking about supporting somebody, you go back to see what your government is doing and what are the clauses it is trying to show for supporting them. And if at all you are not going by that kind of a support that is government is giving, you try to put across your views. See, this viewpoint may be countered by the critics on these lines. You may be the critic, but then you may present it like, this viewpoint, this way of doing things may be criticized by others in certain ways. So you try to bring about your viewpoints on that particular thing. So this is one issue which you will have to prepare on. And then arguments related to UCC also, big time debate. What are the major problems as an anthropologist you can identify? So be prepared on issues like UCC, issues like development for that matter. So one student was asked that do you agree that anthropologists are anti-developmental, and at several places being activists, anthropology is responsible for pushing the tribes back into darkness, into less development and primitive stage. You are getting my point. When such kind of questions are asked, see the way the board asked the question, here I phrased it like, do you think that anthropologists are anti-developmental, blah, blah, blah. So he is starting by saying, do you think? He might change. He might say that, see, I strongly believe that anthropologists are the people who are responsible for the backwardness of the tribes. These are anti-developmental people. Being a student of anthropology, what do you have to say about it? Now, the aspirant who is attending, the board is in two minds, because the board said that I strongly believe that you are the people who are responsible, meaning the barrel is on you, he is shooting directly at you. And then now you are in a fix, it is a strong belief, what should I say now? If I say yes, how? If I say no, is it that he is not going to give me marks? Because ultimately what is there in your mind is, I have to get marks, iste pattukoni velipotanu, kind of. Now the thing is, do not really worry about it. These are the traps. He may not mean what he is saying. He actually wants to see your response. Speak whatever you think is correct and do not try to fabricate. So if you have studied your subject properly, you know pretty well that anthropologists are not the people who are stopping the development. What they want is an inclusive development. The stakeholders should also include the people who are victims. The stakeholders should be the ones who are displaced. So if at all this accommodation, this inclusiveness is there in the developmental process, that is what is the ultimate goal of anthropologists. So you have to present your views that we have crossed the time of deciding whether I should stop developmental process or not. We are there at a time when development has to be inclusive. All people have to be taken into account in the process of development. We should not leave certain people away, because at one point of time isolationism was a policy. Now it is no more the policy because we haven't left them isolated. This is how it has to be. So don't come into the trap. One question was there, do you believe that we came from monkeys? Do you believe that we came from monkeys in the process of evolution? So, I mean, this was not to somebody who was from anthropology, general question as such. The student was not from anthropology. So, it's like uh, how exactly the phylogenetic pictures you have learnt. All those monkey lot of people, they are away from the human evolutionary line. They are far off cousins to us. We do not have ancestry matching with the monkeys. So you should be able to communicate, not that we are the offspring of monkeys. But then there was a common ancestor existing who is yet to be established. We do not know. Scientists say that there is a last common ancestor. We are in search of that ancestor. Once that ancestor is confirmed, we will have a better picture to understand that we have a common ancestry. From there, the whole lot of ceboids or monkeys have come, and the others which are hominoids have come, and that is how it has to be. That is one, and then keep going through your. So those are the 4 things that I have to tell you, and from your own state as well, you will have to go in for the current developments. If at all your state has come up with release of any specific document on tribal administration, development, etc., that has to be. And yeah, somebody was asking this. In the applied anthropology, what all areas have to be studied? I was seeing one of the students is from the family of the armed forces. So it will be a great opportunity. Somewhere you try to see to it that what you have learnt in anthropology as applied anthropology in defense, etc., that has to be brought into your answers. So before that, you will have to talk to your parent about how exactly these kinds of experiments are done, high altitude experiments, or preparing them for particular kind of missions, the kind of physiological preparedness they are trying to give, psychological preparedness they are trying to give, which can be fit under the realm of anthropology. So you can actually make this an opportunity to showcase your knowledge also and drive the discussion into that by incorporating defense applications, etc. And several of you are sports persons, some of you are weightlifters, and some of you various other things you have mentioned. So, I mean, see to it that apart from, if at all you think you are capable of driving the interview in that direction and enriching your answer with anthropological knowledge, you may perhaps incorporate this, the ideas of somatotypes and sports anthropology, etc., and why exactly a failure has happened, why is it that one particular team has picked up so well in the last 10 years, etc. Such kind of questions actually can have a lot of information from. This is one. And there was also a question student was asking on to what extent the areas of genetic information has to be incorporated. See, I once again go back to your syllabus. There are problem situations on the lines of inbreeding and interbreeding, the terms that I have written there. That is the topic that I have brought from there. So extreme level of inbreeding is resulting in particular kind of disorders. That's how you must have studied. The entire list of chromosomal aberrations is there. And hence, if your region has a higher incidence or your community has a higher incidence of any particular type of abnormality, you try to work a little more on that. So if there are more of Down syndrome cases in your region, then you try to go back to see what might have been the reason. Any research papers are there, try to have a look at them. So whatever you are doing here has to happen in a happy-go-lucky manner, not that you are taking the burden of preparation, it's not like that. Try to see to it that you are reading the general stuff, keeping in mind the kind of concepts related to the subject that would really help you. That is how things are. Any more questions from the participants, sir? And those of you who need to talk on your profiles individually may communicate to our team members here. We will have a call with you separately. Definitely, Lakshmi. I will try to give you whatever literatures that you specially want. Kindly post them to us. I will try to suggest books or literature. So, as you are talking about Naxal affected regions, etc., so you can perhaps feel free to ask. As somebody was asking, in the Bastar region, there are land alienation related cases coming up. The student wanted some kind of an information on the tribe of Bru. Um, say your region has any new excavation, it has yielded something that is really remarkable. Then perhaps is one related to your region, and hence you are supposed to, or in general also any remarkable thing. So these are offbeat things, and I don't want you to again go into the details of archaeology and do stuff. Maybe perhaps with the kind of knowledge that you had from your main examination, that should be broadly sufficient. A little while ago I told about this in the context of fossil evidences, etc. Same thing would apply good for archaeology also. I don't think they would, unless otherwise you have something like, some students have written, watching documentaries on history, kind of things. And I think that is where they may come up with, asking questions on archaeological finds, and they may perhaps go into much more details also, like what techniques were used and various other things. So if at all that hobby is mentioned by you, watching historical documentaries and reading about certain stuffs that you have mentioned, in that context it becomes necessary to go into the details of dating techniques, etc. But otherwise don't worry about archaeology specific preparation now. If that doesn't go well anywhere with your profile, you may simply look into what you must have studied. If possible, you try to revise, otherwise on the spot whatever you remember you can tell. And but then secondly, if any discovery has happened or any project government has come up with, like Bodh Gaya project is there, Gaya corridor they were planning it, or any such kind of initiative is there, where government is trying to take some kind of an initiative in and around that culturally significant region, which falls into your state or etc. That's where you will have to go into the detail. So don't worry about revising archaeology now. So core tribal areas are there. People are coming from certain very significant areas like Shimoga, Chitradurga, and Savai Madhopur. People from Sikar region. So these are all significant for some tribal purpose or the other. And the Naxal affected regions of Maharashtra. I think that is where I definitely, madam. SC/ST students have high suicides or dropouts in IITs. A Lok Sabha report was there, definitely. My profile is having IIT in Anthro. How can we answer this and provide measures? Yeah, if at all you were, now that you are out of the organization, you are an alumni, I think as an alumni, you can suggest things like that can be taken up as a project only. In fact, the problem as most of you know in Indian context is that most of you know in the Indian context is how exactly to incorporate anthropologists, where exactly anthropologists can be incorporated in the problem situation. So if such kind of an issue is there, it becomes a vital case. The specialists of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes have to be there on board in order to understand where behavioral anomalies are there, intergroup treatment anomalies are there. It is right from there one has to work, meaning as student coordinator, one should be able to understand how things are changing how things are influencing the low caste and scheduled tribes in such esteemed organizations. So, when you are talking about the Lok Sabha report, I want you to look into the chapter where the recommendations are made. This is one of the recommendations there, that the kind of Dalit and tribal experts have to be on board in order to understand behavioral anomalies. So, now that you have brought the topic, it becomes significant for you too. Is Mahabharata real or not in terms of recent archaeological examinations? We do agree that it is mythological, no? But then that is where what you will have to bring in this answer is how Archaeological Survey of India has changed or modified its own stand from true mythology to it is trying to figure out there are certain evidences of the events that have happened during the times of Mahabharata. So, basically it is like trying to establish evidences to previously what we thought was mythological. So, it means that the stand of the Archaeological Survey of India is gradually changing, and that you try to bring in. It is not going to backfire or anything. Do we need to include any heavy terms in answers not known to the board? Do not try doing that. The board filled with old people should not feel low that you have used a word that they do not understand and they are seeking an explanation. Suppose you are using such a word, immediately you try to explain. Not with a pretension that they not with an understanding that they are not in a position to figure out what you are speaking. It is not like that. You should try to see to it that whenever you are using a word, seamlessly you have to explain. So, what I mean is this, so that if at all any contemporary word is there, you are trying to explain to them. Anthroperspective, definitely an anthroperspective on Israel-Palestine I will definitely provide. So, right now I am closing this particular general session. Whoever is lined up there to have an individual person to person kind of a discussion on specific topics, I will be taking that up. Keep writing. The team, I request you to keep the chat box open for some time. You may close the video, but you try to keep the chat box open so that whatever questions they are writing, we will be in a position to provide answers to them. Questions on, Sante's Nobel Prize can be asked. So, that is where the situational context you will have to establish. Why is it that what was the work done by Piobo? You should be able to recall, because these are the ones that are really remarkable in the social front. Definitely, Rohit, I will go by this suggestion of having a special anthropology telegram group for the interview. We will do that. Industry and anthropology linkage, you will have to be much more specific about the industry, Sanjula. It's long time I met you. If you are going for the interview this time, my hearty congratulations and all the best to you. So, these Kuki, Manipur issues and all, I will be talking to them. I will be giving you write-ups on them so that you can respond, especially also because you come from those regions. Does any UPSC member? No. It might be a coincidence, Sandeep, as I was mentioning. It might so happen that they might take on board a social scientist, especially anthropologist, then you would have big time discussion there, but otherwise mostly these are the generalists. ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि one of them must have studied anthropology in their childhood and then looking at you they got excited and start asking questions from what they remember. That can also happen. Definitely, Lakshmi, you can fix up time with the team so that you can personally meet. So, Uday Singh, Meiti and then Cookie Wala jo hai, I will specially give. So, whatever topics that you are mentioning, some basic opinions and which kind of approach you can use, we will be having them in the write-up that I will provide to you. Keep shooting, so that all of them in a bunch can reach you. Chalo. Thank you so much. Have a good time.